So all I remember of this movie was that there was a little girl with curly hair, and there were these bad guys who were dressed in like gray suits and gray hats, and it had something to do with time, and there was a turtle. And I had no idea what was the name of the movie. I couldn't remember most of the story. And then YouTube helped me out.
Who are you? Who are you?
Momo.
What are you doing here?
Home?
So I watch like random movies on YouTube once in a while, and then suddenly YouTube recommends Momo. And I'm like, is this the movie that I had watched? And turns out, yes, this is the movie that I had watched. And the great thing was that usually nostalgia sort of taints your memory. So a lot of things that you saw as a child and you thought were great, and then you watch it again, you go like, not really. That's not the case at all. This is a really good movie. This is actually an excellent movie. So the movie is called Momo, and it's from 1986, and it's directed by Johannes Schaff. It stars Radost Bokel as Momo, Armin Mueller-Stahl as one of the Grey Men, and John Huston as Mr. Hora.
May I tell you a story? I'll tell it as though it were happening in the future.
And not only is it an excellent movie, there was also a remake in 2025. So I decided to watch both. So now I'm going to talk about both, but mostly about the first one because the remake is not very good. The first one is excellent. Okay, so just to go over it, go over the plot very briefly. Firstly, it's based on a novel by Michael Ende, E-N-D-E, so I'm guessing it's pronounced Ende. He also wrote Never-Ending Story. I haven't read either of those. I'm thinking I'll just, I'll buy and, read Never-Ending Story and Momo. So the story is like about the making of the film is that Michael Ende wasn't particularly happy with Never-Ending Story, like the way it was made. So with this one, he wanted sort of more active involvement. To the extent that when the movie opens, it opens up with this man sitting in a train reading a book, and then you have John Huston sitting in front of him, who starts telling him the story. That man is Michael Ende. Okay, so plot-wise, it's without going into too many details because I'll go into details later when I start comparing it with the remake. The story revolves around this young girl named Momo who lives in a hole in the wall. Like she literally lives in a hole in the wall at the outskirts of this big city, and it's populated by these bunch of people who are sort of very laid back. They lead a very nice, relaxed life, and they find her and they help her out, and they get her a place to stay.
There's nothing to be frightened of here. So you are Momo.
And you have like a whole assortment of nice characters. So you have like a barber, and you have a restaurant owner, and you have the sweeper who finds Momo in the beginning. You have a construction worker, and you have like a whole bunch of nice, not a family, but a nice group of people who sort of help each other out, and they're generally good to each other. And then the Grey Men show up. So the Grey Men say that they work for the Time Savers Bank, which is like they kind of come in and say, oh look, you spend too much time with your family and friends and children, and you don't need to do all of that. You need to work. You need to work and you need to earn money.
Put down that pot. Don't bother with your old deaf mother. After all, time is money, Mr. Fuzzy. Time is money. If you'd be good enough to take a seat, Mr. Fuzzy. You're wasting your time in a very irresponsible manner. I'd like to prove this to you with a simple little computation.
And if you continuously do that, all the time that you would have wasted on your friends and family, we will save that for you, and then you can use it later on. In reality, they're not saving it from them, they're actually stealing whatever time they would have spent with their families, and they use that to sort of elongate their lives. So in that sense, the movie is sort of very it has a very clear sort of anti-capitalist message, because like the gray men remind you of a lot of the stuff that CEOs say nowadays, where you have CEOs going like, oh, you should work like 70 hours a week or 80 hours a week, and you have other CEOs going like, oh, why do you need to go home and see your wife and kids? Just work more. And like the whole like grind and hustle and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting to have like that kind of a message in a children's book, but it's nice. The message is, like you don't need to continuously work. Like life is meant to be lived, and you should spend time with your family and friends, and just be happy in life. And so they are sort of going around town and just getting everyone to sign up for the Time Savers Bank, and then stealing their time. And then Momo is the only one who's not affected by them, because Momo is like a very kind girl, and so she becomes like their main enemy.
I don't get the impression you're very happy to have her, little girl. Are you? Oh, looks to me like you have no idea how to play with such a marvelous doll. Now, shall I show you?
I'd like more things.
You see, she's telling you herself.
And so the rest of the movie is Momo trying to figure out how to stop the gray men from stealing everyone's time. And so along the way, she ends up meeting John Huston's character, who is named Mr. Horo, who is actually like Father Time or whatever, and he helps her out to fight the gray men. So that's the general movie. So comparing the two is pretty interesting, because they make a lot of changes which are not really necessary, but it kind of just makes you go like, which is to the detriment of the remake. So the first thing is it is a lot shorter. Like the new one is about an hour 30, and if you remove the credits, it's probably like an hour 25. The older one is about an hour 45. So you've removed almost like, I don't know, like 20 minutes from the movie, which is a fair bit. In those 20 minutes is a lot of like character development, which the new one sort of misses out on completely. So the first movie spends a fair bit of time in the beginning, sort of just building up all the characters, so you sort of get to know everyone. Like there's the barber who has like a small love affair with this woman living in the town, and then you have the restaurant owner, and you have the sweeper, you have a poet who is trying to become famous.
Get out of here! Out! Get out, Nicola. I'm the owner, and you're not welcome here. You're not getting served anything, so get moving now.
Cockroach.
So you have like a whole bunch of people, and you get to know each one. In the new one, there's just this one kid and his family, and that's it. So there's the mother who owns the restaurant. So the restaurant guy is now just the mother of the poet. Has been turned into the kid who wants to start a podcast, because now, it's 2025, so you start podcasts. So the kid wants to start a podcast, and he has a brother and sister, like a younger brother and sister. And the restaurant owner is gone, and instead it's his mother owning a restaurant. And the sweeper is there, but he barely has a role. And then everyone else is gone. Like the construction worker is gone, the barber is gone, like most of the other characters are gone.
Hey, Mum.
Do you have a good day, my son?
No such thing as a bad day, Uncle Roman.
Anyone show up for your tours?
No, today I was a pizza boy.
Maria!
Hey, Gina.
Bring it in.
So which sort of makes it much more, like which shrinks down the character list, but it sort of makes it much more smaller as a story. Like this, the original feels a lot bigger in that sense. The second thing is and which is like the big thing, is that the grey men in the new one, they really are not like creepy or menacing. Like in the original, they are genuinely creepy. So like if you have watched something like Dark City, I kind of wonder if Alex Proyas watched Momo before he made Dark City, because they're very similar in a way. So firstly, they're all bald, which itself. So they're all white, they're all bald, they're very pale, so which makes them sort of creepy almost immediately. And then they all wear the same grey suit, the same bowler hat.
Call agent BLW 553 to the stand.
In the new one, no one is bald. It's a mix of people. So I'm not saying they should all be white, but making them all bald was an interesting choice. So you have, and they wear gray, but they don't all wear gray suits. So like you have women, you have gray women now, but they're wearing like skirts and jackets, and then you have the gray men, but the suits don't match. So they're all suits, but they're different suits. So like that uniformity is what makes it very creepy, and here you don't have that uniformity.
Stop. Silence.
Even though in the new one you have Claes Bang, who plays the main villain. Like in the older one, it is, what was his name? I forgot. In the old one it was Armin Mueller-Stahl, who is way more creepier. So that's like a big change. Also, like in the old one, they all smoke cigars. So what you find out later on is that the way they steal time is that inside every person's soul, there is what is called as an hour flower, so like which gives you time. And what they do is they steal that flower, and the petals, they dry the petals and they roll them up into a cigar. So whenever you meet them, they're always smoking a cigar. And that is actually the time that they are inhaling.
You have a little secret. You know what I mean?
You know that too? I thought, apart from me and Miss Daria.
Are you planning to marry Miss Daria?
No.
In the new one, because it's like 2025 and smoking is injurious to health, even if you are a bad guy. So instead they have inhalers. So they just take the powder of the flowers and they put it in and they inhale that, which is fine. But what they do very interestingly with the old one is when you see them in a group, like there's a couple of scenes where they're all, gathered together. And when they're all in a group and everyone is smoking, they sort of take that soundtrack and make it really loud. So you have like this deep breathing sound that is just like everywhere. It sort of just really enhances everything being very creepy. You don't get anything like that in this.
You are Agent BLW 553.
I am, Your Honor.
When did you come into being?
Exactly 11 years, 3 months, 6 days, 8 hours, 32 minutes, and as of the cigar, 18 seconds ago.
So you have like these very small differences, but it sort of really works in the old one. And then the first time when the gray men show up, like when the main gray man shows up, Armin Mueller-Stahl, and he meets with the barber. And that's a great scene. Like, so he meets with the barber, and one of the things that happens is they are very cold. So the minute he enters the room, like the barber starts feeling very cold. So he's just like layering himself up. He's like putting on a jacket and then putting on as many pieces of clothing that he can on top of himself. You don't get that with the new one.
If you'd be good enough to take a seat, Mr. Fuzzy. You're wasting your time in a very irresponsible manner. I'd like to prove this to you with a simple little computation. 1 minute contains...
Excuse me, please. I'm freezing to death.
Contains 60 seconds.
So the old one, so it as it is, like, because he's feeling very cold and he's shivering, and the gray man then just starts to like break down his life and how much time he spent sleeping in seconds. So everything is like, you spend like 4 billion seconds doing this. And like, so on the mirror, he starts to write everything down and says like, you wasted this much time of your life, so you should save it with us.
2 hours?
110,376,000 seconds, to be exact.
In the new one, like, you have a gray woman. She meets up with the mother of the of the poet or the podcaster kid, and she just does it on a piece of paper, but you don't get that whole cold effect.
Let me show you. So there are 60 minutes in an hour, that's 3,600 seconds, and you times that by 24. That equals 86,400 seconds per day. Times that by 365, and you get 31,536,000 seconds per year. Oh, wow.
So it doesn't come off as being very creepy, so you get a lot of changes like those, which are subtle, but you kind of go like, why change that? That was like a good thing to have in there. And then finally, sort of like when that scene ends, the impact of this is like pretty immediate. So the one thing that the old one doesn't sort of go into explaining, and like nowadays we like to explain everything. So in the new one, when she sort of says like, okay, I'll sign up for the Time Savers Bank, she gives her like this bracelet, sort of like what's it called? Those health bracelets, so, and that is actually like, it says it will keep track of time. So whenever you're wasting time, it'll turn red. So you go back to work and it'll turn green. And so you have that. In the new one, he just says like, yeah, you just sign up and it's fine, we'll take care of the rest. So there's nothing like that. But what it does very interestingly is that the minute he leaves, the impact on the barber is almost instantaneous. Like he turns around and he's immediately this guy who's like, I need to work. Like, so he's bought some flowers for his girlfriend that he's going to give to his girlfriend, and he immediately throws away the flowers and he's like, I need to get back to work. I'm wasting too much time. And he just starts ordering everyone around. And
Where have you been all this time, huh? Come on, Leo. Time is money. You hear me? So get busy and don't waste time.
They didn't have any yellow ones, so I decided to look at the garden.
Get rid of it.
They're pretty.
Rid of it.
in the new one, like the impact is very slow, so you kind of go like, you should do that, like it sort of gives you that immediate thing like, oh, something has changed in this person's life. Like it does happen, but it happens like much later. So the other thing that is very interesting in the old one is the set design and the art direction are fantastic. When she goes to meet Mr. Horo, like the whole set is kind of white and it's done beautifully.
Welcome to Nowhere House. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Master Horror.
Sadly, the print isn't very good. Like this is strangely a very obscure film to find. Like the only version I found online was the German version. The English version, the only copy I could find is on YouTube, and that's not a very high-res version. The German version is easier to find, but then you got to find subtitles. And I think this was primarily shot in English because the lip sync matches more when it's in English than in German. So yeah, but the English version is almost impossible to find. But anyways, like even with not being a very good print, the set design is beautiful. And also like towards the end of the movie, when Momo returns back to the real world to try and stop the Grey Men, and they've taken over everything and the city is fully modernized, and so all of it is done on a set, and it's a massive set. Like it's got like buildings on both sides. There's like a 4-lane road because there's a scene where like cars driving over. It's like this wavy road, and there's this point where she falls asleep and wakes up in the morning, and you can see one of those sort of street cleaning trucks which has like a shower at the bottom of it, sort of coming over that hill. And I'm like, how big is this set supposed to be? It's a massive set. Like it's done extremely well. So the new one has nothing like that. Like it's done nicely. I think it's also done on a set somewhere or like in some city. There's like an amphitheater in both. So I'm guessing, this is somewhere in Italy. I don't know. I could be wrong. But yeah, it doesn't have the same impact like as a fully built set. So as a recommendation, absolutely. If you have children, I would definitely recommend showing them Momo. Even if you don't have children, you can watch Momo on your own because it is a genuinely well-made movie. Like it's there on YouTube. So just search for like Momo 1986 and you'll be able to find it. The new one, not so much. Like it's not bad. like if you want to watch it, it'll be fine, but it doesn't really have the impact of the original one.